Tales from the Dark Side. So what I'm going to cover today is what I can talk about publicly about Dark Side. All right. And then if you have questions, feel free to raise your hands in the middle of my talk, and then I'll answer the questions as best as I can. And then we also have a Q&A after my talk. All right, so this is Dark Side. This is how Dark Side started. They had an ad that says, "You are a new product on the market." So as you can see, most ransomware operators see their ransomware creation as a product, and they see victims as customers. For them, it's a money-making machine. They have developers. They even have sprints, especially when it comes to improving their ransomware creation. They have sprints. So sometimes you will see, hey, ransomware A is not doing anything for the past 2 weeks. It's because they're actually upgrading their ransomware, and after a month, once their sprint is done, you'll see that new ransomware with new features, new infrastructure, and you'll see the campaign over and over again. All right, so this is when they started. It's the 10th of May 2020. So it's European standard. When you look at the date, it's the day, month, and then the year. So they even said here, based on their principles, they're not attacking the following targets: medicine, education, non-profit organizations, and government sectors. So at the beginning, they were clear on what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So Dark Side is a ransomware as a service. So how many of you are familiar with that term as a service? Ransomware as a service, software as a service. So it's the same thing like you see in the industry, right? And for Dark Side, this is how they made it really, really attractive for affiliates. So ransomware as a service is that you have the ransomware creators have control of the ransomware code, and they also control all of the network resources that the affiliates are using. So the affiliates are the ones that are responsible in spreading and infecting the victims. They're usually the ones who owns stolen RDP credentials, they own spammers, they own malware installers, anything that would have the ransomware reach the target. Those are the affiliates. Those technologies are owned by the affiliates. Now compared to other ransomware as a service, so most ransomware as a service, usually the affiliates, they get 60 to 70% of the profit. But for Dark Side, the affiliates actually get 75% to 90% of the profits. This is depending on the ransom they're getting. So if they're asking for a 4 million ransom, 9 and 736, they bag 3.6 million of that, and then the remaining goes to the threat actor groups that own Dark Side. So for here, it's so simple, right? They have a product, not me. They have a product. They have the infrastructure to support that product. They just need partners to spread that product. So if you're selling software, that sounds familiar, right? If you're selling software, sounds so familiar. So same model, same development model, and then same way of making money, same model when it comes to ransomware. And based on some reports, they're actually backed by investors. Usually up-and-coming ransomware writers or authors, they have really, really good ransomware, but they don't have the money to support it with different infrastructure to make the campaign successful. So with Dark Side, it's believed that there are investors behind Dark Side. So these investors are previous ransomware writers themselves, or previous RAS owners that decided to retire, but then they have so much money. So what they did is that, you know what, we have a really good ransomware creation. I'll give you this amount of money, and whatever you make, you give me 40% of it. So this is why Dark Side became so successful, even at the beginning stages of its notorious career. So they just started releasing in 2020, and they became the most notorious ransomware gang because of the infrastructure that they're using. Aside from the ransomware that they're creating, they were paired with different affiliates that have different capabilities of spreading their ransomware to different victims or to different targets. So when it comes to dark side, there's really nothing different compared to other ransomware. As you can see here, ransom notes are pretty typical. It would ask you to open a Tor website, and then you have to input your key, and then they'll start conversation. Now the only thing different here with other ransomware is that before, the old ransomware gangs, they already utilize Tor sites, and that's how they communicate to the different victims. And most ransomware threat actor groups, what they did is they're not using Tor sites. Instead, they're using emails. So they want you to communicate with them via email. So you'll see that in the ransom note. But what DarkSide did, they chose to use Tor sites because they believe that it makes them more successful when it comes to communicating with victims. And the reason why it's easier for them to do this is because the threat actor groups behind DarkSide, they want to monitor all of the communications that's going on between the affiliates and between the victims. So we have to understand the victims are actually communicating with the affiliates. They're not communicating with the threat actor groups behind DarkSide. And this became a problem with different threat, I think it was GandCrab, if I remember correctly. So they use Tor sites, but what the threat actor groups behind it discovered is that when the victims communicate to the GandCrab affiliates using the Tor website, the affiliates would tell the victims, let's continue this communication via email. Here's my Proton mail address and things like that. So the communication now shifts from this to an email, and whoever owns that GandCrab, the threat actor group behind GandCrab, they're not aware anymore of what's going on there payment-wise, right? So they're not able to monitor how much money was paid to them and how much money they have to give to the affiliates. So DarkSide is trying to solve that problem by relying mostly on Tor sites. Hence, this ransom note that will ask you to open a Tor site to continue that communication. And this is an example of a communication between a victim and an affiliate that infected that victim. And we have to understand this is like an operation to them. So if you have access to underground forums or deep dark web, you could actually see a lot of ads there, like looking for tech support, work from home, you get this amount of money, if you can speak different languages, you get more money. And this is what they do. Most of these people, they're the ones that are answering chats on behalf of the affiliates. So it's just like a big company, a big operation, money-making operation for them. So all of those ads, you could see them in different underground forums that are putting these ads on there. And during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs, right? So it was really very attractive for some people to go this route. And sometimes they know about this, and sometimes they don't. But for them, as long as they're making money, it's fine. And it's sad because most of the people that are doing this come from countries that are not, I would say, well off like the US. And they have no choice but to, hey, you know what, I need to feed my family. I'll be a tech support for the different threat actor groups, and then I'll provide this service. So it's just like those unwilling mules, right? So we have two types of mules: the unwilling mules and then the willing mules. So they're not only taking advantage of the victims, they're also taking advantages of the different plights of different people in different countries to do their jobs. So this is just one example, right? And one thing I learned is that if you communicate with these threat actor groups, they would actually give you discounts. If they're asking for, let's say, $5 million in ransom, some people would play the card of, I really don't know how to get bitcoins, I don't know how to transfer them to you, I might need some time, I might need some help, I might incur more expenses. Can you give me a better rate? And some threat actor groups would actually give you discounts. They'd say, hey, if you can come up with the money in X amount of days, we'll give you 30% discount, and things like that. So it's a continuous negotiation. And sometimes the negotiation takes a week, sometimes a couple of weeks, and it's just buying time for them to really try to make sure that the last resort is paying the ransom. And I remember one time somebody asked me, is it better to pay a ransom or not? And my answer to that, it's a business decision. So I cannot tell you how to run your company, whether you need to pay ransom or not. But my suggestion always is, it's a business decision. Work with your lawyers, work with your local enforcements, work with experts, and then make a decision based on that. So, DarkSide was making a lot of money, right? So, when you're making a lot of money, it's time for you to expand. So this is what they decided to do. They decided to make sure that their servers will not be in the reach of different governments and local enforcements. They decided to put it, or not really decided, but they're planning to move it to Iran and other republics that are friendly to or have bulletproof hosting. That they can just put anything that server, and whoever's that hosting provider, they really don't care what you put in that server as long as they get paid. So this is what they did in November of 2020. And for a time, they were really very successful. They have, I would say, known victims or high-profile victims. They also have like smaller victims. But during this time, they really made a lot of money doing their campaign. And then the Colonial Pipeline attack happened. So how many of you live in the Southeast? So I live in Atlanta, and we were heavily affected by this. Costco was our savior, because Costco always had gas. Although there was a shortage for a bit, but they always had gas, at least in our experience. And it's so funny because in Georgia, it's easier to get a vaccine than to get gas during this time. Like you can go to Walgreens, you can go to CVS, you can get a vaccine, but then it's hard to get the gas. And this was hard because this was the time where people actually go out on vacation. So summer vacation in Georgia usually starts at the first week of May, because that's when kids go out of school, and kids go back to school first week of August. Actually, my kids started school yesterday. So this was the time where people are usually traveling. And people are traveling usually to the coast and to Florida. We have a friend that got trapped because they're not able to buy gas. So they had to stop at Jacksonville on their way to Orlando so that they could get gas, because they couldn't find any gasoline station with gas. So this was the first time, I would say, that people really got affected by a ransomware attack. Like most of us, we would just hear this in the news, say, oh yeah, company so-and-so got hacked or got breached, they got breached by ransomware. Oh, it's fine, I'm not affected. But this is the first time, at least for me in recent memory, that I was directly affected by a ransomware attack. And I'm going to plug something. So back in 2012, I wrote this book. It's published by McGraw-Hill. It's Malware Rootkits and Botnets, a beginner's guide. So one of the topics I discussed there was ransomware. And I remember there's a passage there that I put, like, there will come a time that all of these breaches and attacks, it will affect us all, that we will not ignore them anymore, and we will take them seriously, and security and risk professionals can go to their CEOs or C-level executives and say, I need budget for security. And the C-level executives will just say, you got it. Because for a time, it shows us the importance of cybersecurity, because it not only affects systems right now, it affects us all. It affects our livelihood, it affects our lives, because most of the things that we're doing are now intertwined with different computer systems. We cannot survive without any high-tech systems supporting all of the things that we're doing currently. So what was the result of that? So there was government and law enforcement pressure. I think 2.3 million, based on OSINT reports, was seized back by the government based on the, I think almost $5 million ransom that was paid by the Colonial Pipeline. And they were banned from XSS and Exploit, which is a Russian-speaking underground forum. Most of the ransomware as a service, they put their ads on those two forums, XSS and Exploit. And for a time, they said, we're banning all ransomware discussions in our forums, because they don't want the pressure also from the government seizing their servers or whatever to track whatever information or whoever's posting that information to those to these underground forums. So what DarkSide did is like what other companies do, right? If something happens that they don't intend to happen, they do a press release, right? So DarkSide did the same thing. So they had this press release. They're saying, we are apolitical, we do not participate in geopolitics, and there's no need to tie them with defined government and other motives. Because the belief when Colonial Pipeline was hacked is that it was an attack in the US, against the US, because it affected a lot of American lives. It affected a lot of American operations. So it was believed, especially those people that are new to ransomware, that it was a direct attack on US itself. And the threat actor groups behind it, they're saying, oh no, 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 no. We're not attacking the US. We're just businessmen. It's not our fault. It's the fault of our affiliates, right? So they're passing the blame to their affiliates. There's actually one more posting I wasn't able to put here, is that they're saying that they punished or they're banned that certain affiliate that was responsible for that attack. So it's just like them saying, hey, we're the good guys here. We're showing you that your systems are vulnerable. That's why you have this problem. And whoever has this great idea of attacking the pipeline system, it wasn't us. It was our affiliates. So they're trying to wash their hands off of it. But then, of course, it didn't work, right? So for a time, if you guys actually go to our website, we have a weekly ransomware report where we track all of the different ransomware families. I think we're tracking 50, 30. You can actually see in that report that DarkSide went up and then suddenly they're going down. So these are based on the number of samples that we're able to collect from our proprietary sources and different sources that we have access to, which is in line with what's happening as we're seeing it in the wild. Because most of them are slowing down. The affiliates are now much more careful with what they're doing. Now, instead of them just saying, you know what, I own a spam bot, I'm going to spam everybody in my email list. Now they're looking for, hey, this address says government agency X. Let's not spam them. Let's pick and choose our target. Something that will make us money but then will not really have the full backing of the government against us. And actually, DarkSide did that. There's a report, and this was confirmed by the FBI, that Guess, the fashion brand Guess, was attacked by DarkSide. I think it happened 3 weeks ago. I think it was their next high profile aside from the Colonial pipeline. And it's believed, based on blockchain information, tracking the wallets, that the researchers have access to. There might be more wallets out there, right? But the researchers have access to, that they actually made $90 million from their campaign starting from May 2020 until like a couple of months ago. So they made 90 million. So that's a lot of money, right? And it's estimated that based on the number of victims, again, that researchers have access to, the average ransom payment that DarkSide is asking is $1.9 million. So that's the average ransom that they're asking. But did they really retire, or was it a forced shutdown? So this is the English translation of the previous slide that I showed you earlier. So Unknown is one of the most active posters in underground forums, and is also known to be part of a threat actor groups behind different attack campaigns. So this is what he translated it, and then they were saying, like, you know what, since we're the good guys, if there's an attack on government agencies, healthcare, whatever, which is against what their original post was, and they were launching DarkSide, they're saying, you know what, we'll give out the decryption tool for free. But I haven't seen that happening. It probably happened, but I haven't seen it happen firsthand, at least in my own research. But I've seen some threat actor groups that actually did this. Like they decide, hey, you know what? It's a hospital. We didn't mean it. Our affiliate's fault. Here's the decryption key for this one. And what's funny about this is that most of these threat actor groups, after all of the things that has been said, after all of the ransom has been paid, they would actually send you an email telling you these are the things that are wrong in your system and fix it. Because if you don't fix it, this will happen again. It might be them, or it might be another threat actor group. And which is sad, right? Like you have the bad guys. It's just like a burglar came into your house saying, hey, you know what, if you do this, you add this alarm system and all those things, this will not happen again. So when I was younger, so much younger than today, there was a show in Discovery Channel. It Takes a Thief. You guys know that show? It's one of my favorite shows ever, because they would come to a house, break in, and really destroy things and take things away. And it's just them showing, hey, you think you're secure, but you're actually not. Because you guys are so relaxed that you think nobody will break in, or nobody will be interested in what's inside your house. But there's always something interesting inside your house. So it's the same thing that's happening here, right? Some companies would say, hey, you know what, there's nothing to take here, right? You ask for budget, your C-level executives will tell you, don't worry about it, there's nothing that they want inside our organization. But then, try to shut down a system in your organization just for a day and see what happens. If it affects your operations, if it affects like whatever operations that you have that brings in money, you don't need to have data. Just the disruption in that operation itself is enough for you to lose money, and some people are forced to pay ransom because of that. If you're losing 5 million a day, and the threat actor groups are asking for 3 million, right? That's why it's a business decision. It's always a business decision. So in the previous slide, I showed there 90 million. This is based on monitoring the wallets through blockchain. But there's this really good website, it's ransomware, it's a .re. And this is based on public reports. And as you can see here, DarkSide only has 5 million. And these are wallets that are actually out there. But there are more wallets that are not out there that the companies that were breached are keeping a secret. Because number one, if you get breached, it's a lot of headache, right? You have to talk to the SEC, you have to talk to your customers, the legal headache that comes with it. Not to mention GDPR and whatever privacy laws that you just violated because of that breach. That's why threat actor groups also make sure that their wallets are not known. They only make it known at the end of the negotiation when the company decides to really pay the ransom. That's the only time they would reveal their wallets, which is totally different from the ransomware of old, wherein you go to that Tor site or you open the ransom note and then the wallet address is there. So it's easy for everybody to monitor. But now that's not what's happening. So most of you guys are blockchain experts here. You probably know more than me. I'm a reverser by trade, and when it comes to blockchain, I'm just a little grasshopper when it comes to blockchain. But you can easily get a wallet and then monitor it. Like for this one, a ransom was paid on May 21, 3 o'clock, and then the next day, I think that's what, like 12 hours? Not even 12 hours. Oh yeah, 12 hours, right? It got transferred to different wallets already. So if you're monitoring something like this, sometimes you'll see one big wallet, ransom going to that wallet, and then that wallet will send money to hundreds or even thousands of wallets, and those wallets would send hundreds or even thousands of other wallets. They use different mixers to make sure it's hard to follow or hard to track. But of course, if you have the time, if you have the resources, you can always track where the money is moving. This is what I think. This is what the government did. That's why they were able to seize 2.3 million back from the ransom that was paid by Colonial Pipeline. And this is just my opinion. Okay? This is just my opinion. Before, when you get victimized by ransom, what are they asking for? They're asking for gift cards, they're asking for Western Union, they're asking for money that are hard to trace. At least with Bitcoins, we have tools that we try to follow the money. Although there's some cryptocurrency that are private and it's hard to follow, but I think it gives, the cryptocurrencies give the good guys a lot of technical information for us to be able to track where the money is and even stop the money flowing to the bad guys. So what's next for DarkSide? So they're retiring on 90 million, at least that's what we know, right? That's based on the wallets that they have access to. There might be more. So what's next for them? Remember, they have investors, right? They have investors, they have the technical know-how, they have the people, they have their own organization behind them. So what they did, and this is the belief currently in the research community, and as with other beliefs, right, it might be true today, and we get more information, and then it won't be true anymore 2 weeks or a month from now. But based on the current information that most researchers have, they're rebranding themselves as Black Matter. Same thing, same MO, we do not attack, blah, 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 hospitals and all that. About us, they are a team that unites people. See, we are a team that unites people according to one common interest. At least they're honest about this, right? Which is money. Like if you want money, join us and become our affiliate, and they'll become rich together. That's how they attract all of those Class A affiliates. Because if you're a Class A affiliate and you're getting more take compared to what other ransomware as a service is offering, chances are you'll go to Black Matter or Dark Side, right? So this is an example of Black Matter. Ransom note, same thing, same MO. There's nothing different. The Dark Side, just the language, the wording, and they have a cool design at the beginning, cool ASCII art at the beginning. But then, Dark Matter is another story. Hopefully I get invited again, and then we'll talk about Dark Matter in the future. And before I leave, I would just like to give credit to Malware Hunter for the image I have in slide 3, slide 7 and 12 from Intel 4721, 811, 17 from VP Computer, and slide 13 from Recording Future. And thank you guys, thank you for attending. Oh, and by the way, we have what we call a PolyX community. It's a Slack channel where researchers come and meet and talk about different things, about malware, ransomware, threat intel. You guys are welcome to join. You can send me an email at Tophs, Tophs, at PolySwarm.io. Then I'll give you information. And if you're still here, we actually have a gathering tonight at the Four Seasons Hotel, 6 to 7 p.m. tonight. And if you have questions that you forgot to ask, I'll be there. You can ask me questions. Again, guys, thank you so much. Thank you.
What was your website again?
PolySwarm.io or PolySwarm.network also works. PolySwarm.network. So this is how you spell PolySwarm.